Okay, so we are on to the next gin tasting. Now, before we get there, I just went and grabbed some of the black cardamom that I was talking about earlier. So let me see if that will focus in on it. As I said, they're kind of a smoked little pod. And then inside that pod, if I can get into it, I can't easily. There we are. We have these little kind of, it'll be difficult to see, little beads, and those beads are the ones that taste kind of menthol and eucalyptus. So if you're getting any notes of menthol eucalyptus in the last gin, that's where they came from. So we're going to go on to our Flower Bomb gin now, which is arguably our best-selling product. So the Flower Bomb gin is really meant to be a celebration of springtime. So perfect time of year to be trying it. We basically devised the recipe to be hyper-floral but still be a balanced London dry gin. London dry gins are different to other gins. There's certain rules around what a London dry gin is, and some gins, and in fact every other gin we're going to be trying today is not a London dry gin. However, the Hertfordshire Dry and the Flower Bomb are both London dry gin. So I guess the most important thing, in my opinion, the most important of the rules of the London Dry sort of criteria is that nothing can be added after distillation. So the London Dry is unadulterated. It's you distill your botanicals with your alcohol and water solution, and what comes out the other end, you can cut it down with water because everything comes off, varies for different stills, everything comes off our still about 82%. So we obviously always need to water that distillate down to get to a bottleable strength. So the Flower Bomb gin's 40%, so there's a decent amount added to that distillation, about 100% of it again in water to be able to cut it down to drinking strength. So I'm going to try this with you. I've got this fancy pants glass here because I didn't have any. I don't have any like shot glasses or anything here at the distillery. So the Flower Bomb gin, this I think is, it's certainly my favourite of the range. The idea is that it's an elegant, bright, floral gin, perfect for kind of, sunny weather, elegant gin and tonics, classic cocktails. I don't know, this in a martini is beautiful. So just a little bit of vermouth, and then like a strip of lemon peel, stir it down over some ice, pour it into a martini glass, something like this. I've just got the gin on its own here. Give it a smell. You should be able to go. Hey guys, sorry about the little glitch there. I'm recording this on my phone. It's not the most sophisticated recording technology ever. This is indeed the very first virtual tasting I've ever done. But it means that my phone rang, and unfortunately because of that, the video cut off. So apologies for the kind of gap in the video there. We were just about to try the Flower Bomb gin. So as I said, I have got it in my glass here, just on its own. Now you've all had a chance to quench your thirst, if that existed, before we started with your Hertfordshire dry gin and tonics. Hopefully we can kind of slow down a bit now and think a bit more about what we're tasting. So Flower Bomb again is a London dry. Have a sip now if you haven't already. A London dry, another one of the London dry rules is that it is juniper led. Then behind that, in lesser quantities, we have sort of backbone botanicals. So we've got a little bit of citrus and lemon peel. We've got coriander seed. And we've also got orris root, which is the most floral of the root botanicals. Licorice and angelica root being the other two that are commonly used in gin. And then we have the floral botanicals. So I may well forget one or two here because it's quite a dizzying list, but let's try and reel it off. Rose, jasmine, heather flowers, hibiscus, chamomile, lavender, lime leaves, and calendula. There's 9, that was 8. The other one will come to me. So yeah, so that's all just, all put in the pot. We leave it to rest overnight and let all the botanicals infuse into the alcohol. Then it's distilled. And once the distillate arrives out the other end of the still, we cut it down with water, and you end up with this very kind of pure, straight gin. But it's very floral. Certainly if you've still got any of the Hertfordshire dry gin left in another glass, and you've moved on to your Flower Bomb gin, go back, kind of smell them, taste them both, see if you can pick out any differences. There definitely is a difference between the two, as you should be able to taste. And certainly as we move forward now, into some of the other gins, you're going to notice that they're going to change sort of more considerably. So you've got quite a lot of gin here. I hope some of you are kind of not just downing each 50 centilitre bottle of gin at a time, because you won't be listening to me by the end of the video. If you are, you know, feel free just to have a try. You can always revisit them as we get further on down the line through the sort of sweeter gins. You'll be able to come back and say, like, oh yeah, this is definitely quite a lot drier. This one is very definitely a dry gin. There's, you know, as I said, you're not allowed to add anything to a London dry gin other than just distillate and water. But it has got some sweet aromas from all the floral botanicals. So it's, I guess, tastes significantly sweeter than the Hertfordshire Dry because of that. But again, it's not actual like residual sugars in the bottle. It's just the sweet smell of the floral botanicals. So have a little think, you know, have a little try, and we'll come back in a minute for... We are now on to the next instalment. So, mango and black pepper gin. This is our most recent gin creation. We launched this in September of last year, so it's pretty new. It was inspired by a newspaper article that I read years and years and years ago. Well, years and years. It was published in December 2014, and it's always stuck with me. So it was a gin company, Gin Mare, the Mediterranean gin. You may well have seen it around. They commissioned a bunch of food scientists. One of the people is a guy called Stuart, who runs a kind of drinks lab in London. But they're very clever, knowledgeable guys, and they look at drinks and food from a scientific perspective rather than just like, oh, that tastes nice perspective. And so the Gin Mare commissioned Stuart and his gang of food geeks to look into what would be scientifically, in terms of flavour receptors and things like that, the perfect gin and tonic garnish. So they decided, after testing out hundreds and hundreds of garnishes, that mango and black pepper was the best garnish you can get. I'll try and give Kirby a link to that article if anyone wants to fact check me. But yeah, so I think it was a Metro article, one of the big newspapers anyway. So mango and black, so it always struck me that mango and black pepper is a perfect garnish for gin. So I thought, rather than just garnish the drink with it, why not try and see if you really sort of infuse those flavours into a gin, whether the result was good. Certainly we all loved it at the distillery. I've kind of, this has been my go-to for the range when I want sort of something really flavourful for a long time. The process, I'd say, is quite pure. Whereas I'd say, you know, it's technically adulterated gin. We are doing stuff to it after distillation, but we've tried to keep what we're doing as, I guess, as simple and as simple as possible. So we're using cut mango, so ripening mangoes in the distillery. We basically kind of got a hot box. We ripen the mangoes. Otherwise, you get, you know, some are slightly unripe, some are riper. Hot box them. We kind of speed up the ripening process, and you can guarantee you've got fruits that are all evenly ripened. We're slicing it very thin, so you've got maximum surface area for the liquid to go onto, and then we basically rest the gin over the cut mango for 3 days. We then discard the fruit, which is about kind of discoloured, and the gin is taken on a very light yellow colour. We then put it onto peppercorns for about 12 to 24 hours, and a little bit of pepper goes a very long way. It is quite a spicy gin if you try it on its own. If you haven't done already, I'd recommend doing that now. So again, it will taste quite spicy. You get a bit of you definitely feel the heat in your mouth, but when you cut that down with tonic water, that's really flattened and you get a nice kind of rounded flavour. So yeah, on the fruit for 3 days, comes off the fruit, goes onto the peppercorns for 12 to 24 hours. We then have to go through a series of filtering, because by doing those two macerations, you add quite a lot of fine particles to the gin. And if you look at the gin, you'd be able to see that it is completely clear. I'm going to, lots of people don't know this about our bottles, but our paper wraps have become a bit of a kind of trademark for us. But if that wrap ever gets ruined or dirty or anything, underneath that wrap, hang on, oh, I've ruined it, I'm just gonna have to rip it off. Underneath that wrap, they are labelled front and back like a normal bottle of gin. So to show you the colour of this, it's off, definitely off clear, and it's just kind of like a hazy a hazy white, basically. So kind of, yeah, grassy yellow. But that's just the natural flavour that you get from combining the gin with the mango and the black peppercorns. So again, summer weather, this is fantastic, just for a nice, certainly different gin and tonic. It's kind of, again, 43%. It's kind of in the sort of upper quartile of gin strengths, until you get onto things like navy strength and stuff. But yeah, give it a go and see what you think. It's I guess some people it would be a bit strange having a tropical fruit with a gin. We think it works really well. I hope you feel the same. We'll be on to the marmalade gin next, which is the first of the kind of 2 sweet gins we'll be tasting. So I guess that's the in-betweensy. It's still spirit strength, but then it's liqueur sweetness. So it's kind of in between the two. We'll see you in a moment.